the National League of Cities held their annual Summer Policy Forum in Washington, D.C. in June, where elected officials from all over the United States met to discuss policies and best practices in various steering committees and boards. Among the Mesa representatives was District 6 Councilmember Scott Summers, who serves as the Vice Chair of the NLC Public Safety and Crime Prevention Steering Committee.
I am not a representative of the federal government. I represent local governments. I represent you on this board, as do the majority of the people on the Public Safety Advisory Council.
Councilmember Summers not only attended the sessions, he also presented to both his committee and the Information Technology and Communications Steering Committee. His presentation provided an update to committee members on the development of a national public safety broadband network.
Back in 2001, when New York and Washington and even Pennsylvania were directly impacted by the terrorist events, what we realized in public safety that there was a huge gap in communication. And some of the lives lost and the property damage was a direct result of the inability of organizations to communicate. My presentation today is on the creation of a nationwide public safety broadband network. It's for voice and data communications for police, fire, emergency medical services, and hospitals, so that we can communicate no matter where you are in the United States. When you think about 9/11 or the Boston bombings or hurricanes and tornadoes who have struck the East Coast, we have a slew of responders, both public sector and nonprofit, that come in to take care of that disaster. One of the challenges we have is good communication, receiving data and receiving voice. What we're doing here in this committee is helping to provide input to FirstNet, a board of the federal government that is going to create a national broadband network for all public safety entities. And we're providing feedback on what it is we need in that communication system.
Summers is a firefighter for the city of Phoenix and has firsthand knowledge of the importance of radio communication for first responders.
And what was really difficult was that we in public safety rely on the same communication technology and the same platforms and infrastructure that the rest of us, everyone else in the room does when they're making a cell phone call. So naturally what happens in a disaster is you make a telephone call and you say to your wife or your husband, your loved one, that I'm okay. And the problem is you're using up sort of that network. And we in public safety aren't able to get the data and the voice communications that we need to make an impact on that environment and to save lives.
A nationwide broadband network would mean a partnership between local government and the federal government, which is where the NLC and its committees come in.
What happens at the federal level impacts Main Street. So local governments need to be involved in the federal legislative process. One example of that is the creation of a public safety broadband network. It is an improvement over existing communications, but it's going to impact the types of equipment we can buy, how we interact with our local partners, how we communicate with our federal representatives, our FEMA teams that deploy nationwide. So we need to have a voice there in order to create a system that is going to work for local governments. Otherwise, we're stuck with whatever the federal government tells us to do.
The goal of the National League of Cities and the mission of the National League of Cities is to be able to create a network of city officials from around the country who can rely upon each other, exchange good ideas, because we all share the goal of making our communities stronger.
Summers, the PSCP Steering Committee, and the NLC continue working with the federal government to help provide funding for a nationwide broadband network that will help make our nation a safer place. For more information on the National League of Cities, visit www.nlc.org.